No, sir. But if you want to do it, I don't mind.
Y'all want to do sidebar? Today, agenda regular meeting Thursday, June 4th, 2020. If there's, like to ask everyone to silence their cell phones, please. And if there's anyone that's wanting to fill out a blue slip that's downstairs, please give it to someone and they will give it to us if you want to talk on any particular item. Pledge of Allegiance, Mr. Tremonti. Prayer.
Father, Son. Dear Lord, I want to thank you for allowing us to join each other tonight, and bless us with the opportunity to make things better in our parish, to improve the fellowship that we have here tonight. I want to thank you for all the blessings you bestowed upon me and my family. And in your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I just want to say before we do roll call right quick, with everything going on, I just would like to ask for just a moment of silence for everything that's going on throughout the United States and everything, just a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Yes, sir. Vice President Abshire?
Here.
Mr. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Barris?
Here.
Mr. Barty?
Here.
Mr. Brain?
Here.
Mr. Burley?
Here.
Mr. Hayes?
Here.
Mr. Landry?
Here.
Mr. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Marminshaw?
Here.
Mr. Richard?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Stelly?
Here.
Mr. Tremonti?
Here.
And President Gilroy?
Here, present. And again, I want to ask everyone that when they make a motion or a second, that they raise their hands so Mr. Abshire can see you and everything. Item 4, take appropriate action on applications for liquor and beer permits.
So moved.
Mr. Boland.
Mr. President, we have 2 applications, and we are recommending that both of those be approved.
I have a motion by Mr. Barris and a second by Mr. Abshire. Is there any discussion? Any objection? That motion carried. Item 5.
Move on 5.
Consideration of approving payment on all current invoices. I have a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Mr. Barris. Is there any discussion? Any objection? That motion's carried. Item 6.
Move.
Consideration of approving the minutes of the regular meeting of the police jury dated May 7, 2020. I have a motion by Mr. Stelly and a second by Mr. by Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith. Any discussion? Any objection? That motion have carried. Item 7.
Move to adopt.
Consideration of adopting a
Second.
resolution approving the proposed budget for the operation of the Southwest Louisiana Crime Laboratory for fiscal year 2020 through 2021. I have a motion by Mr. Brain and a second by Mr. Barris. Is there any discussion? Any objection? That motion carries. Item 8, consideration of adopting a resolution ratifying the submittal of a proposal to the Louisiana High School Athletics Association to host a state girls basketball tournament at the Burton Coliseum Complex. I have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Abshire. Mr. Barnes.
Yes, hi, good evening, members of the jury. We're doing this action to bid on a tournament that's already been awarded, basically because we were under the gun with deadlines and the way our meeting schedules went and the way the shutdown affected the Louisiana High School Athletic Association and their schedule. We did find out yesterday that we did not receive the award of the girls' tournament bid, but we did receive the boys' tournament for another 2 years, and I wanted to focus on that tournament with you very briefly because there's a lot of good news that came out of this. Every 2 years, we've had to put a bid in for both of these basketball tournaments. And we've been successful with the boys' tournaments for now running 8 years now. This particular year, though, LHSAA chose not to put the boys' tournament out for bid and decided to extend our current contract with them for another 2 years. And this is a huge win for our community because this is the first time we believe in about 25 years that they've done this for any tournament. And so why I'm telling you this is because this kind of event and this magnitude is something that takes an entire community to put together. It's not just the police jury and our employees, it's so many other organizations. Our partner in this, and has always been our partner throughout all these tournaments, is the Convention and Visitors Bureau. And then we also have a big partner in the Sheriff's Office and the hotel industry. And so putting this together and the fact that we were able to secure another 2 years out of this tournament without having to bid for it was a really big win for us. And, 7 years ago, this police jury had the forefront of, going after something like this. And over the years, we've continued to polish and shine on it, continue to grow it, make tweaks. And we've turned it into a well-oiled machine with all of our different community partners. The other part that's very interesting, it's not just an event for the youth in our community to go watch. It is a huge economic impact for 2 weeks in March. We estimate through the numbers given to us by the CPB that over the last 7 years, we've had an economic impact of about $12 million that have gone into it, and then 6,000 hotel room nights. So it's a really big generator. It's a big win for the area. And we really wanted the girls to remain here, but Hammond received the tournament. And it doesn't mean we don't have the option to try down the road. But we're very pleased with the outcome, and we're looking forward to another good 2 years with the tournament.
Is there any discussion? Yes, Mr. Abshar.
I think the fact that they extended the contract is just a reflection of the good job that you guys do over there. And I wish you the best of luck in the challenges you'll be faced with social distancing whenever it does get here. So.
Thank you. As you know, you probably all know, we actually had the last 2 days of the boys tournament as a no fans tournament.
Yeah.
It was a move that the LHSAA made at the very last minute, and it was a smart move on their part because the other option that they had was to just cancel the entire rest of the tournament, not allowing the boys that had made it to the finals to, end the tournament. So it was a very surreal atmosphere. I can forward some pictures to you. We still had the prayer and the national anthem sung, but it was very different. And it was, we think, LHSA said this, it was the last sporting event in the state before the shutdown occurred. So it's interesting. We look forward, and hopefully we won't have that kind of challenge next year.
Keep it up. I yield.
Okay. Mr. Barty.
And again, I want to echo what Mr. Abshar said. You guys do a tremendous job with that event. I've been out there and caught a few of the games. My question, though, is, seems like whenever we're not successful in the bid with the girls, it winds up in Hammond. Is there anything that we're learning that Hammond does that maybe we're not?
Well, Hammond was actually the lion's share holder of the girls' tournament for years.
Right.
We received the tournament for a 2-year period in 2014-15. From that point, it went to Alexandria for either 2 or 4 years. And it's just now making its way back to Hammond. So I think there are some issues that Hammond needed to work out to get back to where they are. But, we're always identifying ways that we can improve on. If there are anything that we can, we can tell that they might have a one-up on us. When we have these tournaments that are not in our area, we usually go, me and someone with Eric Zartler with the CBB, we usually go one day to the tournament, wherever it's being, just to watch, observe, and see anything that works and what may be a good thing for us in the future. But yeah, that's certainly something we always are open to. We don't try to invent the wheel. If somebody else can do it right, we'll figure it out.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Any objection? That motion carries. Thank you, Jason.
Right, Jason.
Item 9, consideration of
Move on
adopting a
9.
resolution approving a servitude agreement for the Evergreen Avenue Site Distance Project. I have a motion by Mr. Abshar and a second by Mr. Andrepont. Is there any discussion? Any objection? That motion carried. Item 10, consideration of adopting resolutions
10.
accepting the following projects as
Second.
substantially complete.
All bullets.
I'm gonna read them into the first. Okay, item A, I-10 South Frontage Road Construction Project, Phase 2. Item B, Lincoln Road Bridge Replacement Project. Item C, Canal Road and Boys Village Road Waterline Loop Project. Item D, improvements to the elevated water storage tank for Waterworks District Number 2 of Ward 4 project, and clearing and snagging of Cayuchi Coulee lateral. I have a motion by Mr. Stelly and a second by Mr. Barris on all bullets. Is there any discussion? Yes.
Let's put it on item A. Is this the project where Mr. Missy's had quite a few concerns?
I would ask Tim Connor.
Okay, Mr. Connor.
That's right.
Mr. Marcantel, this is the South Frontage Road. This is not the same project.
Okay, it's not the same. Okay, okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Any other discussion?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Brain, Mr. Brain.
Hey, Ken, while you're there, I'm gonna catch
Mike.
you on B, the Lincoln Road Bridge Replacement Project. Did we ever solve that issue with that, sorry about that. Did we ever, resolve that issue with that guy not being able to turn into his property that you and I talked about?
We've met with him. I think we've got that worked out.
We did get it worked out?
Yeah, or it's being worked out.
Okay, being worked out. Okay, thank you, sir. I
Any
yield
other
back.
discussion? Yes, Mr.
Where
Tremonti.
exactly is this item A?
Could you turn your mic on, Mr. Tremonti?
Where exactly is this item A?
Mr. Tim.
I'll
Mr.
answer
Connor.
that. It's on the south side of the interstate at the Ruth Street exit. You're in front of the West Cal Arena where the concrete pavement stops. This is
Okay.
an extension of that, about 3/4 of a
Right.
mile to the west.
Gotcha.
It ends at the Entergy bulk station.
At the, yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mr. Smith.
This is on the north.
Yes, sir. I had a question about E. Where exactly is that? The
Cayuchi
Cayuchi
Coulee.
Coulee? That's,
Alan will come up and answer that.
okay.
Yes, sir.
I had a question about E, the clearing of the Coulee, Cayuchi Coulee.
Yes, sir.
I think you just asked him where is it at.
Oh, I was trying to find exactly, where exactly y'all was clearing it out at.
That's a small lateral, extension of the lateral. When you go over the, best way I can describe it is, when you go over the railroad bridge, when you cross on 210,
Uh-huh.
when you're making the loop on 210, there's a lateral that runs east and west there, near that. And that's really the bulk of where this work was at, in that area.
Okay, is that like by the golf course or?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. You know, when you would go to the old Mallard Cove Golf Course, there was a lateral on the right-hand side. You couldn't even really see it on the road out there. That's where it's at.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Smith. Okay, that's it.
That's it, thank you.
Mr. Wainwright, I just want to ask you on the Cayuchi Coulee, is that also behind those houses where they had the flooding at, when that flood came through last year, a couple of years ago? Is that clearing up that also by Cayuchi Coulee?
I think, if I understand exactly where you're describing, this is on the other side of
It's by the terrace.
yeah, I don't think, no, sir. This is again,
Okay,
along would have been the entrance road to Mallard Golf Course, and really goes right up to where the runway turns, and you meet it back again alongside the runway.
thanks, Mr. Wainwright.
I don't think there's any homes on the stretch that was done at all.
Okay, Mr. Hayes.
Don't you mean Pine Shadows Golf Course?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, yes, sir. No,
Pine
Mallard.
Shadows was there. It was the old Coyote Coulee.
yeah. The lateral that we cleared is, it's a little piece of, it's an extension of Cayuchi Coulee, not the Cayuchi Coulee, the main branch. So, the lateral that the stretch was done, you can see it from the interstate on 210. When you're going over the railroad trestles, right, not too far from the power center.
Right before you get to Legion Street? Right
Yes.
there.
On the east side of the interstate. So it would be the Mallard, of course.
Thank you, Mr. Wainwright.
All right.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? Any objection? That motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Wainwright. Item 11, take appropriate action on the following bids and/or proposals received by the parish purchasing agent.
Mr.
On
President.
all bullets.
I would like to recuse myself from this agenda item, all bullets.
From all of them, Mr. Barris?
Yes.
Okay, that the record show Mr. Barris recuses himself. Item A, overlaying of various roads in wards 1 and 8. The parish engineer recommends that the low bid in the amount of $2,564,305.40 of Prairie Construction LLC be accepted. Item B, 2 2020 or newer mid-size cargo vans for use by the Facility Management Department. The staff recommends the low responsive bid in response of Mike Willis Ford in the amount of $50,970 to be accepted. Item C, 1 2020 new mid-size pickup truck for use by the Facility Management Department. The staff recommends the low responsive and responsive bid of Mike Willis Ford in the amount of $22,890 be accepted. Item D, 3 2020 or newer smaller sport utility SUV for the use of the Division of Engineering and Public Works and the Office of Juvenile Justice Service. The parish recommends the low responsible and responsive bid of Mike Willis Ford in the amount of $59,880 be accepted. Item E, 1 2020 or newer 1/2 ton extended cab quad door pickup truck for the use by the Division of Engineering and Public Works. The staff recommends the low responsible and responsive bid of Bolton Ford in the amount of $25,105 be accepted. Item F, official journal for a 1-year period beginning July 1st, 2020. The staff recommends the proposal of the American Press be accepted for a 1-year period beginning July 1st, 2020. I have a motion by Mr. Landry on all bullets and a second by Mr. Abshar. Is there any discussion? Any objection? That motion carries. Item 12, consideration of adopting a resolution of the condolences to be
Move on,
forwarded
12.
to the family of the late Joann Beam. I have a motion by Mr. Barris and a second by Mr. Anderpont. I just want to say, I didn't know Brian's mom, but I know Brian, and from being here, we all have became family, and he is just a great person and a good guy. And I do know his dad, Mr. Beam, but our prayers definitely go out for the Beam family and everything. And I just want to thank Brian for everything that he do here. Yes, and Mr. Boland.
Thank you, President Gilroy. I just want to echo what President Gilroy said about the passing of Ms. Beam. She will be missed. It's a tough time for the family, but as everyone knows here, we are family here, and we pray for everyone. We pray for all, and in this case, is no different. She will be missed. We will continue those prayers until the family gets through with this item, but it's a tough time, but keep the family in your prayers. Staff appreciates everything the Beam family has done for us over the years, too. Thank you, Mr. Gilroy.
Yep. Is there any other discussion? Any objection? That motion carried. Item 13, advise that on April 14, 2020, the governor signed proclamation number 46 JBE 2020 to reschedule the presidential preference primary election to July 11, 2020, and the municipal general election to August 15, 2020. Early voting for July 11, 2020 election will be held June 20th through July 4th, 2020. Early voting for the August 15th, 2020 election will be held July 25th through August 8th, 2020, excluding Sundays.
Just to advise, no vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's an advised item. Number 14 is also an advised item. Advise that on July 23rd, 2020 at 5:30, the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury, Governing Authority of Sales Tax District Number 4-A, will meet in open and public session at the regular meeting for examine and canvass and returns to declare the results of the July 11th, 2020 election. Mr. Boland.
Thank you, President Guillory. Just a refresher for everyone. On this ballot will be the renewal of 1.5% sales tax, which has really been with the parish and collected since 1992. And it's collected in every part of the parish except for Ward 1. You're probably asking what this 1.5% fund, but it actually takes care of the road and bridge construction, thus its name, and overlays. But it also really takes care of all our curbside residential garbage pickup, which is huge across the parish, and our 2 solid waste centers. I think over the COVID epidemic, the 2 busiest places we had were probably parks. Most definitely was our solid waste convenience centers. It gave people the opportunity to kind of clean up around the house. And so those items are on that are covered through that tax, or funded through that tax. Also funded through that tax is our litter program, which has really gained some momentum over the last year thanks to everyone here on the jury. Again, it was just a refresher. There's more news to come, but I wanted to kind of point that out and kind of update the jury on that.
Mr. Landry.
Thank you, Mr. President. On item 13, are y'all telling me that they
Mike.
will be open on July the 4th and I can go down there and early vote? Because I really doubt that that's correct.
Chris, turn on your mic.
It is on.
Okay.
Oh,
Mr. Barris, good.
take the pillowcase off your head.
You talking about July 11th?
Can you hear me now, Mr. Barris?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
I will look
Long
at
as
that,
you're
but I'd have to double check that. But I think they're going to be open. The difference this year is also for 2 weeks versus the 10
Well,
days.
maybe so. Maybe it is correct.
I will check on it. Double check. It just said excluding Sundays, but I will check Mr. Landry and make sure that is correct.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you, Mr. Barris.
Help a brother out.
That was an advised item. Is there any discussion on it, anything? Mr. Barris, I'm sorry.
Real quick, remind me again, all the stuff that this tax, all the districts that this tax, the things that this tax takes care of, what takes care of that, of those items, those services, what money, what source takes care of that in Ward 1 at present?
At present, we use the other 1 cent percent sales tax, and we also have a property tax of around 4.0 mils. I'm looking at Tammy, but I'm close to that we use to help in those areas of Ward 1. But this tax does not cover any of those services in Ward 1.
And the residents in Ward 1 have to pay for their own clothes.
That is correct, Mr. Burley.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Barris. Okay, item 15.
Move on 15A1, appoint Mr. Carl Vincent.
We're going to take them one at a time. Take appropriate action, and I'd like to ask everyone, we're going to take them one at a time, and I'd like to ask everyone, whatever appointment that is, they make that appointment for their area. Take appropriate action on the terms of the following members of various boards and districts. Item A, Calcasieu Parish Planning and Zoning Board, Mr. Gary Navarre resigned, and I have an appointment for Mr. Carl Vincent. And I have a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Mr. Barris. Is there any questions? Any discussion? Any objection? That motion carries. Item A2, Mr. Kyle
I move to appoint Ms. Deanne Winey.
Move
Second.
to appoint Ms. Deanne Winey. And I have a motion by Mr. Brame and a second by Mr. Barris. Is there any discussion? Any objection? That motion carried. Item B, Chanel International Airport Authority.
I move to appoint Mr. William Bill Hankins.
Move to appoint Mr. William Bill, reappoint Mr. William Bill Hankins. I have a motion by Mr. Hayes and a second by Mr. Brain. Is there any discussion? Any objection? That motion carried. Item C.
Move to appoint Mr. Gary Navarre.
Consolidated Gravity
Second.
Drainage District Number 1. Move to appoint Mr. Gary Navarre. I have a motion by Mr. Anderpont, and I'm sorry, a motion by Mr. Burley, and a second by Mr.
No,
Barrett.
motion by Mr. Anderpont.
Mr. Anderpont, I'm sorry. That's my vice over here. Any discussion?
Give me some hands, guys.
Any objection? They wanted to ask them?
He's second.
Oh, he's second, okay. Any other discussion, any objection? That motion carried. Item D,
Move we accept William
Community
Wilcox.
Center and Playground District Number 4, Award 1. Move to appoint Mr. Bill Wilcox. I have a motion by Mr. Ashton and a second by Mr. Markentile. Any discussion? Any objection? That motion carried. Item E, Recreation District Number 1, Award 4.
Move to reappoint Mr. Gary Stitch Gilby.
Move to reappoint Mr. Gary Stitch Gilry. I have a motion by Mr. Burley and a second by Mr. Barty. Is there any discussion? Any objection? That motion is carried. Item F, Recreation
Move to
District Number
reappoint Mr.
1,
James
Award
Sargent.
8.
Second.
Move to reappoint Mr. James Wilson Sargent Jr. I have a motion by Mr. Stelly and a second by Mr. Richard. Oh, okay. Any discussion? Any objection? That motion's carried. Item G,
Make a motion.
Southwest Convention and Visitors Bureau. I have to appoint Mr. Mike Buckley. Mr. Buckley was preferred, Mr. Jeff and Mr. Steve, but Mr. Buckley, Mike Buckley. Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Markentile and a second by Mr. Tremonti. Is there any discussion? Any objection? That motion's carried. Item H, Ward 4 Fire Protection District Number 4. Move to reappoint Ms. Nancy Falk.
So moved.
Second.
So,
I have a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by, raise your hand.
I need hands.
Okay, Mr. Markentile. Ms. Glenn King to reappoint Mr. Glenn King, I'm sorry. I have a motion by Mr. Burley and a second by Mr. Barty.
You guys got to get it together.
Any discussion? Any objection? That motion's carried. Item I, Waterworks District Number 4, Ward 4.
second.
Move to appoint Mr. Kenny Welch. I have a motion by Mr. Burley, a second by Mr. Anderpont. Is there any discussion? Any objection? That motion carried. Item J, making a motion for
Move to
all
appoint all
appointments. And I will read them into the bullet. I have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Stelly. I'll read them into the record. Okay. 1, state-required nominating agencies, Ms. Kim Towson. B, Ms. Tamika Simeon. C, Mr. Robert Fontenot. And Mr. Patrick Richard.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Ms. Patrick Richard, to appoint, we're going to appoint Ms. Terry Johnson in her place, reappoint Mr. Robert Fontenot, reappoint Ms. Tamika Simeon, and appoint Ms. Faith Hooks. Number 2, Southwest Economic Development Alliance. Reappoint Ms. Christina Delivo. Reappoint Ms. Barbara Denuke. Reappoint Mr. Joel McSpalding. Reappoint Mr. Dale Logan. Reappoint Ms. Nicole Moncrief. That is item 2, Southwest Louisiana Development Alliance. Item 3, Vernon Parish Chamber of Commerce. Reappoint Mr. Randy Alford. Reappoint Ms. Deborah Jones. Item 4, Jeff Davis Chamber of Commerce. We're going to defer for 30 days. Beauregard Chamber of Commerce. We're going to appoint Ms. Kelly Beavers. Personal privilege, Mr. Grimion.
Mr. President,
We'll take action on that item now, on item 2.
Okay, I got a motion from, I need a motion. Mr. Smith,
Motion.
and second by Tony Stelling. Is there any discussion? Mr. Grimion.
Thank you, Mr. Gilroy. I just want to give you, the police jury, a quick update on what is now Tropical Depression Cristobal. It's down in the Yucatan Peninsula, kind of meandering around right now, but it is due to come back offshore, and once it does, it'll gain strength. The latest National Hurricane Center run of the track of the storm this afternoon at 4 o'clock does bend it back a little bit more towards the west, towards our way. So I don't think we'll really know until probably Saturday or Sunday what the outcome is going to be. It is a tropical storm. We won't have to worry about wind damage, but there could be, if the storm were to track west of us, there could be storm surge issues as well as heavy rainfall. And we've all seen what these a tropical storm can do. Most people don't worry about it too much, but those tropical storms can really drop a lot of rain like we had with Hurricane Harvey and Imelda last year. So just we'll be keeping an eye on it. Right now, there's no action to be taken from a public protective action, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is there any questions, any discussion? Mr. Smith? Oh, Mr. Brain.
Thank you, Mr. President. And this may be directed for Alan Dick, but the sandbag locations, are they up and we got plenty of sand and all kinds of stuff if we need it over the weekend?
Yeah, I think they are, but I'm going to let Alan address that.
Our sandbagging locations are prepared. We have not opened them yet, as of yet. Only change to our sandbagging locations for this storm is in the Sulphur area. One of the things we worked out in the last big event, we ultimately moved where Sulphur, the city of Sulphur was actually managing it. So this year we're doing that again. It'll be at the Kroger's site in Sulphur. They're managing it, so it's only changed to what's normal, but we have not activated those sites yet, but everything's ready to go, if it gets to that point.
Okay, so that it'll be available for the weekend if it's
Yes, sir.
Saturday, Sunday?
We have everything staged.
We're going to have some type of way of letting people know? Or?
Yeah, we'll release something when it gets to that point.
Okay, thank you, Alan.
I'm sorry, Judge telling me to make sure I mention it's the old Kroger's.
Mr. Wainwright.
Yes.
Mr. Tremonti.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Wainwright, is there going to be anything with the Patton Street Bridge out? Traditionally, people go to the barn to get their sandbags. Is that something that'll be announced? Maybe on KPLC or?
Yeah, we've already been in contact with Tom on putting out something when we do go to make sure it's understood that the change has been made in the Sulphur area.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion?
And just make sure y'all understand, we really got to do this because the Solid Waste Center is so active at this point. It's really everybody's accessing the same spot. Really would be way too crowded. So we're really thankful Sulphur has really stepped up and helped us pull this off.
Thank you, Mr. Wainwright. Thank you, Mr. Grimion. We had a motion, we had a second on item J on all bullets. And any other discussion?
Move to adjourn.
I have some advice before we adjourn. Item 16, advise item on several board appointments. Please look over it. We are now adjourned.